In May of 2008, CBS News and New York Times poll stated that 53% of Americans do not want genetically modified food. If over half the population does not want genetically modified food, why don't we notify them that they are buying unwanted products? This is something that affects Californians and overall Americans every day and will grow its way into our future, into our youth. Labeling genetically modified foods will allow the consumer to know exactly what they are purchasing. Today, we will first talk about why Californians have been kept in the dark about this matter. Second, who has been keeping this information a secret. And finally, what we will do to solve this issue.
Californians are being deceived about genetically modified food products. They aren't aware of the process that their food is undergoing. If this process continues, it can lead to many health risks and endanger our future. If Americans don't know what's in their food, health risks will eventually emerge. Mark Lifshire said in the Los Angeles Times on March 30th, 2014, that proponents of labeling food say that they fear that eating such foods, often made from genetically modified corn, soybeans, and sugar beets, could cause allergic reactions, asthma, and autoimmune deficiencies. This is just one side effect that could potentially emerge from genetically modified foods. According to Smith, who conducted research on GM foods in the Natural Revolution website in 2007, agency scientists urged superiors to require long-term studies, but were not only ignored, their statements about possible negative effects of GMOs were progressively deleted from FDA policy statement drafts. Evidence of this FDA activity was presented at a Washington, D.C. press conference in 1999. Another story that major media did not publicize. The Food and Drug Administration is supposed to help us Americans, not try to hide possible harmful alterations that are being done to our foods. Why are Americans being informed about potentially harmful and even deadly alterations to the food that we are consuming every day?
Why aren't Americans being informed about this potentially harmful and deadly alterations to their food?
Businesses who produce and sell GMO products are against labeling them because they don't want to lose profit. According to Pamela M. Praw in her article, Here's What GMO Labeling Will Cost You, published in the Huffington Post on March 13, 2014, it is big agribusinesses and farmers who don't want to support the labeling of GMO products and swear that modified foods are safe to consume. And while they might be safe to consume, as Amanda Little states in her article, a journalist and a scientist break ground in the GMO debate in the New Yorker, published on April 25, 2014, non-GMO labeled foods are the fastest growing category of food in the U.S., and that was made popular by the anti-GMO activists. So that indicates that the farmers and production companies don't want to label their foods because they're afraid of losing business because of these activists who are against buying any products who aren't specifically labeled that they have GMOs or that they don't have GMOs. So that means if they label them and they do have GMOs, all of these people in this new category of foods, this new activist movement, aren't going to buy their food. So this shifts the blame onto the farmers and production companies because these businesses aren't being honest with their customers.
So what can we do to ensure good health so that the government can actually step in and do something?
Require all genetically modified products to be labeled. This has been a growing concern for a lot of customers because they don't know what they're eating anymore. And companies are too afraid to act upon it because they know they will have to spend a lot of money. And they also are in denial, as CNN has reported. They say that there's nothing wrong with their food and it will not cause any harm to anybody's health, when in reality all their products have been chemically treated before they are sold. Being that it has been a big problem, we have proposed two ideas. One of them being for companies to put some money to the side and invest in labeling their products. This can both help and keep their company in business as well as keep customers satisfied. Another idea is boycotting or going on strike and strictly buying organic food, though it will be very expensive in the end. It will demonstrate to a lot of companies that this is a problem and the people aren't paying attention to what they're doing. As the Huffington Post has reported, countries such as China, smaller countries in Europe have banned GMOs and made it a law or a requirement for companies to label everything they do to their products.
Now I hope you have a better understanding about how labeling our food will allow Californians to be more aware of what they are purchasing. Today we have learned how the outcome of genetically modified foods is unknown, but how it could potentially harm us. We have also learned who is and will be to blame if we don't act now. And finally, how labeling our foods will overall allow Californians to be more aware of what they are putting into their bodies. James E. McWilliams states in Slate magazine that in 2014 alone, over 25 states have proposed legislation related to GMO labeling. California and Washington were very close to getting labeling passed. However, Vermont, Connecticut, and Maine have been successful. Whether it happens on a state-by-state basis or through the federal government, GMO labeling is looking very, very successful. Slate magazine did a study in 2014 that states over 90% of Americans want GMO labeling now, compared to the 2008 study that only 53% of Americans wanted GMO labeling. However, Center for Food Safety says that over 88% of corn, 93% of soybeans, and 94% of cotton is genetically modified, and a very little percentage of Americans know. This is why labeling is needed. It is our civic duty to inform the public of the harms of this country. Our future depends on it.